Welcome to the City Manager's Report. The City Manager's Report, a look at city updates and municipal news, and a preview of the next Oshkosh Common Council meeting agenda. Your hosts, Emily Springstrow of Oshkosh Media and City Manager Mark Rohloff.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on GovTV for your City Manager's Report, your source for all of the latest and greatest news and updates of projects that are happening right here in the city of Oshkosh. I'm your host, Emily Springstrow, and as always, we're joined by our City Manager, Mark Rohloff. Welcome, Mark. Thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here, Emily.
Always great to have you. We always have a lot to talk about in this show, so we're going to take the first half of the show and talk about some hot topics that are happening right now in the city, take a little break, and then we'll return with a review of the council meeting agenda for Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. So, Mark, the first thing that we want to do a little bit of a recap on in the first half here is the budget workshop. We had one last evening on the 22nd, Wednesday. Tell us a little bit about what was discussed and what the next steps are going to be here in the process.
This is the second of what will be 6 workshops that council goes through before they finally vote on the 2019 budget. So this one is typically, takes a little look back based on our 2017 performance. Our annual audit was completed, so our auditors were there and gave an update, as well as just seeing where we are at the 6-month, sort of the halfway period of 2018. And then we start getting into some of the things for 2019. But some of the outcomes, what we learned from last night's meeting, our 2017 audit was done, and we got a clean bill of health in terms of where we are financially, in terms of how our audit accurately reflects those things. Those are minimum acceptable standards. But some of the other things that we thought were very good is our very strong fund balance. We have a policy that says we need to have our fund balance needs to be about 16% of our following year revenues, and we're actually at over 20%. So we're very pleased with how that has worked out for us. One of the other things, it's an issue that we still need to concern ourselves with, and some of the statistics bore that out, is that we still need to manage our debt and get it down a little bit more to meet up with some of our peer communities. Wisconsin Public Policy Forum has this analysis that they do of cities of our comparable size, and so how we match up with them. And some areas we're good, and other areas we're not so good. And debt's one of the things that we're not so good on. We have a higher level of debt. We've picked up a lot of debt in recent years, but we've also started to recognize that and manage that. So that is going okay. We're making the right progress in the right direction, but we still have ways to go on improving that. And then finally, we do a 5-year forecast of what our budget is going to look like, making certain assumptions, and it's really just kind of a reality check on. We may have one year that might be particularly good or bad, but you need to take a look at that over the long term. And we showed that, if we don't address certain things, state aid is one of them that keeps getting reduced, what that could mean for us. So we just show that and project it out. We want to make sure that we're not overly reliant on property taxes, which to a certain degree I think we are, and we need to make sure we temper that. So those are the types of things we take a look at because we want to make sure that we minimize the impact on the property taxes, and we showed council what that could mean for us in the future if we just kept going on. So gives council something to think about as we get into now the phase of departments submitting their budgets, and we have to balance the budget based on what they submit to us, and then give the council a look at it and say, are there any adjustments you want us to make before we get into 2019?
Definitely. So we're still in the early phases of the process. This was the second budget meeting.
Right.
And next workshop is on September 19th. And that's, like you said, when a lot of the departments are going to start presenting their budgets. And I think the council might have a little more questions, and it'll be kind of out of presentation mode and more kind of conversation and discussion on different items.
This workshop will primarily focus on where we see going capital outlay or capital improvements for the coming year, and that really ties in very strongly with debt. So we'll have a big discussion about debt and capital improvements in general, not specific projects, but we'll talk about those things. And that's, by then, the departments will have submitted their budgets, but we won't be presenting those budgets at that time. That won't be until late October, but this really is kind of the final one before the budget is presented to council. Then we have 3 workshops after that.
Excellent. So we are getting the ball rolling, and we're looking forward to a great budget process this year for next year. So moving on, a really fun little update is over at Menominee Park, you might have noticed that the tennis courts are getting redone. And we also have some brand new pickleball courts, which is something that we've kind of learned about through the process of them deciding to do this. And they are done being painted, and they're just about ready to start playing on.
Yeah, they are. For those, the tennis players know how rough condition these courts were in. It wasn't just a matter of repainting them, it was resurfacing them. There were a lot of potholes, for lack of a better term, and you can't play tennis with potholes. And then through the process, as we've done surveys, we discovered that pickleball is gaining a lot of attraction, particularly with older adults, but it's just become a more popular sport. But we still need the tennis courts. North High School uses those as their competitive courts, and that is on the north and east side. This is pretty much the place where you play tennis in town, so we certainly needed to continue to accommodate that. But the pickleball courts, you can see that some of the old, one of the old tennis courts was converted into, I believe, 4 separate pickleball courts. So we don't have the nets up yet, and that's really what we're waiting for, is getting the nets up and everything. But we said we were going to be done by just the first week of September, just after Labor Day. We're still on track for that. We may even be able to get them open a little bit earlier, so stay tuned to our website. We'll be giving you updates. But after Labor Day, even though it'll be a little cooler, I think it'll be time to be able to enjoy the tennis courts.
It'll be perfect tennis and pickleball weather at that time. So, and then of course we want to encourage you to get out to Menominee Park and take advantage of the rest of summer and the fall season too, and get out there, play some tennis, and see the park and the zoo and everything else, and ride the Menominee Park train. So that's my little segue into our next item that we're going to talk about. Oshkosh Media just completed a brand new heavy metal segment in which we focus on a different piece of city equipment that happens to be a big heavy metal version of itself. So we're going to go ahead and lead right into our newest heavy metal segment about the Menominee Park train.
Installed in 1982, the Menominee Express was operated by DEG Enterprises of Neenah. The City of Oshkosh Parks Department took over operations in 2002. The train operates during the summer season and is very popular with roughly 25,000 riders per year. The train consists of the 25 horsepower gas engine operated by summer staff and 2 passenger cars with 6 seats each. Pick up your tickets at the Children's Amusement Area concession stand at Menominee Park and hop on the train at the depot on the opposite side of the building. Leaving the depot, the train begins its 11-minute journey by crossing the bridge and swinging around to the far side of the lagoon before looping back towards the depot. If you hear the train crossing signal near the entrance to the Children's Amusement Area, that tells you the train is passing through on the way to the tunnel and then back to the depot where passengers disembark. The Menominee Express has been entertaining passengers for more than 3 decades, and you can help us make sure it continues to do so. Every year, the engine's torque converter and transmission have to be serviced. Wheels have to be rebuilt, and worn tracks need replacing. For more info on how you can help fund these annual maintenance costs, call the Oshkosh Parks Department at 920-236-5080. If you've never ridden the Menominee Express before, stop out and see why so many people enjoy this Oshkosh icon every year.
So great job to Scott Williams from Oshkosh Media for putting that piece together. A really fun little highlight of something that we don't always think about, the Menominee Park Express.
It's a great feature. It's, obviously it's great for families, but the good news is that we got a great train there. Bad news is we only have one more week of the season left. So if you want to see the Menominee Park Express and enjoy it, you better make sure you get it done within the next week. We're going to be closing right before Labor Day weekend.
Definitely. Moving on in our first half topics, Mark, we want to give a little construction update to the public on a variety of projects that are happening, a lot of big projects this summer. So first one being Oregon. What is the latest update on that project?
This project is going from 6th all the way out to 16th Street. Happy to report that Oregon from 8th Street to South Park is now open. So we're real pleased with that. A lot of people use that to get from the south side to the north side. A lot of people use that as their commute to downtown Oshkosh. It's now open. Expect to see the signals not operational immediately. Usually we put them on flash and have stop signs there for a few days to get everybody reacclimated to it. But it's open and you can start using it. And obviously with South Park and 9th both being pathways to I-41, that's a big deal for people. But south of South Park is still under construction, and that will be continue into October. So keep your eyes open for those types of things. But we're real happy that that this section is open. The businesses have been very patient about that. We really appreciate them just hanging on throughout that process, and everybody start getting back there and enjoying all the services and businesses that are there along Oregon Street.
Yes, definitely happy that this is starting to open up here. So great news. The next construction update that we have, Mark, is the Court, CP, Otter, Wagoo, that whole area that's happening downtown. Tell us a little bit about what the latest is on that one.
We're making good progress, but if you read social media, which we both do,
yes.
There have been a lot of complaints, and they're not without merit. It's very inconvenient out there. We're doing a lot of work out there, and it continues to be an issue. Now, some good news is that CP is generally open, so that if you want to go eastbound into the neighborhood in the general area there, CP is your way to go. Or you can always dodge the area completely and go to the north. To head west, it's a lot tougher. Right now Washington's closed. Wagoo is really only open to local traffic. And so what we're encouraging people to do is, go use Broad Street or State Street to go up and down, and then go, if you're going west, go west, take Merritt, take Parkway, or just venture farther north. But all recommendations are to avoid the area. We're making great progress, and we can make great progress by closing a lot of these streets. Yes. So it inconveniences you in the short run, but in the long run, it's going to look great. If you saw some of the video of the work that's been done, and of course, CP's open, you can see what's already been done there. It looks great. It's going to be great, but just give us a little more time.
Definitely hang in there with us, right?
Yes, thank you.
Speaking of that, one more closure that we want to make sure people are aware of for this weekend, and that is North Main and Washington. Tell us a little bit about the reasoning behind this one.
Well, this will only be for August 25th and 26th. AT&T has to lay some lines out there, and but they need to close off a portion of that intersection at North Main and Washington for the weekend of August 25th and 26th. We've been told that traffic that's going north on Main Street will still be able to turn left or westbound onto Algoma, but it's going to be pretty tough. Trucks won't be able to turn there. My suggestion is try to avoid the intersection if you can, but if you get forget about that for a second, you get to the intersection, recognize that there may be a little inconvenience there, but you'll be able to make the movement.
Yes, and they're going to do their best on posting detours and everything too, so there will be some direction down there if you do happen to run into it.
Right, and it won't affect Farmers Market. Farmers Market is making just minor adjustments, but you'll be able to go to New Moon Cafe and grab a coffee and then go into the Farmers Market. I think they're going to try to scooch some of the booths there to the north a little bit, just to move everybody. But you'll be able to enjoy Farmers Market without any issue. but just avoid that intersection if at all possible.
Wonderful. And then finally, if you want updates on any of these construction projects and any of the other ones that we didn't talk about, you can visit the city website. There is a link for different project updates that they can get sent directly to your email inbox. So I encourage you to do that as well and keep posted on all these different things that are happening throughout the city. Finally, Mark, we've got some Labor Day updates, and it's crazy that we're already talking about Labor Day. It seems like summer just finally got started. So really quickly, kind of do a quick rundown of some of the things that are going to be changing. First is that there will not be any garbage or recycling happening on Monday, September 3rd. It will be delayed one day, so your regular garbage and recycling collection will happen the day after your regular pickup. Collections for the remainder of the week will be one day later, and then Friday, September 7th, if you were scheduled for that day, it will move to Saturday, September 8th, and then everything will go back to normal on Monday. The yard waste drop-off site will also be closed. So in addition to that, City Hall will be closed, and then also no GO Transit bus service. So make sure you're planning ahead with different trips and things like that for Labor Day.
Yeah, just be ready. It's just the normal holiday schedule.
Definitely, yes. And so stay posted to our Facebook page. We'll be posting all those updates on there as well for your convenience, and on the city website too. So in lieu of doing a question mark today, Mark, we've got a little bit of an educational piece that we want to touch on, and that's the dark store. We've gotten a load of questions on this, and it's been an ongoing issue. So maybe before we get into the education part, give us a little background.
Well, this is something that has been directly impacting the city of Oshkosh, but this is happening throughout the state, where a lot of big box commercial retailers are have been taking advantage of a loophole that we would like to close. And what the loophole does is it enables them to have their property valued below what the market value of this property is. Some people use a term, the dark store argument, where they want their properties assessed similar to a vacant comparable store, which really doesn't make a lot of sense. So we've been working with with other communities throughout the state, as well as led by the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, and they put together a little informational video that's about 4 minutes. And in lieu of our normal PSA break and our question mark, we want to do that. So hopefully we can learn a little bit from that, and certainly we want people to understand the issue so they can make informed decisions as well.
Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at that educational video.
If there are big box or other chain retailers in your community, your property taxes may be going up. That's because certain commercial properties have been able to obtain special tax reductions. Perhaps you've heard of these tax breaks. They're known as the dark store and Walgreens loopholes. Unless the state legislature closes these loopholes, other property owners, including homeowners, will pay an average of 8% more in property taxes. Even more in some communities. Communities like the town of Grand Chute, Ashwaubenon, Sheboygan, West Bend, Franklin, Pleasant Prairie, Sun Prairie, La Crosse, and Rice Lake. You see, the total amount of property taxes a local government may collect is strictly limited by state law. The size of the property tax pie stays pretty much the same from one year to the next. What can and does change is how the pie gets divided. When one kind of property, like big box stores, pays less, other kinds, like residential and mom-and-pop businesses, pay more. Let's take a closer look at the dark store loophole. Attorneys for big box chains claim that a brand new store in a busy area has the same value for tax purposes as a vacant, boarded-up, dark property located in an unpopular location. Here's an actual example. A Lowe's store in Wauwatosa is assessed for taxes at $13.6 million. Lowe's claims it's only worth $7.1 million. Yet Lowe's spent in excess of $16 million to acquire the land and build the structure. Lowe's argues that even the land was devalued from $9 million to $3 million once the big box store was constructed. And Lowe's insists its store can only be compared to vacant dark stores for property tax purposes. Ironically, as big box stores fight for a smaller share of property taxes, they use more municipal services. Big box stores demand more police, fire, and ambulance service than other commercial properties, and way more than residential properties. Every day, municipal police, fire, and ambulance respond to calls from big box stores. Meanwhile, the cost of paying for these services gets shifted to homeowners, the class of property using these services the least. The other loophole is called Walgreens after a 2008 Wisconsin Supreme Court decision. That ruling allows national pharmacies and other businesses who lease their store to claim the value of their properties, for tax purposes, is less than half of the actual sale price. Here's another real example. Walgreens challenged the city of Oshkosh's assessment of its store. The Court of Appeals, relying on the 2008 decision, decided that the value of the Walgreens property was $2.2 million, much less than the $4.3 million actual 2009 sale price of the property. Other taxpayers, mainly homeowners, now have to cover Walgreens' former share of the taxes. Plus, Oshkosh taxpayers had to pay the corporation a tax refund of $69,500. Nearly 300 pharmacies in Wisconsin can take advantage of this loophole, including stores in Ashland, Onalaska, Dodgeville, Beaver Dam, Weston, Appleton, and Sturgeon Bay, and in your neighborhood. Other commercial and manufacturing businesses that lease their space are also beginning to use this same loophole. Only the Wisconsin state legislature can stop this unfair tax shift. Tell your state legislators to restore fairness and common sense to the property tax system by closing the dark store and Walgreens loopholes. Call your state legislator through the legislative hotline at 1-800-362-9472 or visit darkstoreloopholes.org.
All right, so thank you again to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities for putting that video together. I hope it helped our viewers to better understand the whole subject of the dark store loophole.
And Council's given us direction to pursue this and educate the public and certainly explain to them why it's going to impact them as property owners and property taxpayers rather than the city. The city's going to collect the same amount, but who we collect it from, I think, is really the fairness issue. So we're going to be talking more about it in the coming week, so stay tuned.
Looking forward to it. So getting right into the Common Council agenda for August 28th, 2018, Mark, the first thing that we want to touch on here is the introduction of some city staff. We have a couple new managers coming into our team. So.
Yeah, we're real happy to be welcoming some new folks. Jennifer Messerschmidt, she's our new Assistant Finance Director. She was previously with the town of Lawrence, and so she's joined our staff. She actually was with us for a while on a temporary basis, and we've enjoyed having her, and so now she's on board permanently. And then Michelle Benke is our new Human Resource Manager, so she'll be working on personnel type issues, labor relations issues, and she comes to us from the private sector with a lot of great experience, and we're happy to have Michelle on our staff as well. So Jennifer and Michelle are great additions to our management staff, and look forward to working with them.
Yes, welcome to them, and we look forward to meeting them at the council meeting on the 28th. Moving down, there's a public hearing, and this is the approval for final resolution vacating a variety of streets around in 2 different locations. So kind of take us through what these streets are, because a lot of there's a long list here on the agenda, and some of them we have no idea, have never heard of them before.
Well, the first one is actually about Oshkosh Corporation and getting the streets into there, and we've had to move some things around because of some requirements from the Army Corps of Engineers. So what we want to show you is what the street's going to ultimately look like, but we have to vacate some properties that actually were dedicated to us, and now we're going to basically undedicate them and vacate them back to the property owners. And we've already worked out where the final road's going to be, and we're going through the bidding process, so this is just part of that process. It's the second one that's really a lot more interesting, because we were doing some cleanup as a result of everything we were doing over with Oshkosh Corporation, and we mentioned something about vacating some streets over by Rainbow Memorial Park. So we're just getting rid of a lot of old streets that really should be part of the park anyway.
Yes, and so it's kind of a fun fact, because these streets, as we did research, we found out that they were created or named even before Oshkosh was an official city.
As we were doing the digging, we found out that these streets were platted back in 1848, the year Wisconsin became a state, and a full 9 years before the city of Oshkosh was incorporated. So these are really old plats, and that's why a lot of people didn't realize them. But as we did our research, all those streets that show up in yellow were streets that were platted. They're part of the park, so they're really not needed anymore. A couple private property owners are going to be surprised with a little return because they, by law, go back to them as the property owners to the adjacent property. But we're most of the owners on both sides of these mystery streets. So it's a fun little fact that as we did more digging, we found these things out.
Definitely a fun fact for a city manager's report today, and you can find the full list on the council agenda as well and on the city website of these streets. Moving down under consent agenda, we've got the approval for a specific implementation plan, and this is for development of a warehouse and distribution facility at 3970 Poberezny Road. And people will recognize this as Alro Steel, and they've been downtown. So tell us a little bit about what's happening here.
Alro Steel has been looking for a new location closer to I-41. They found it over there on Poberezny Road, and the Plan Commission has recommended approval. So this is where the location is, at the corner of Ripple and Poberezny, right along I-41, giving them the visibility and access that they really wanted. So the real issue is what now is going to be done with their property at 10th and South Main. And we don't really have an answer for that, but you can see that that's an old facility, and these are the new facilities that they really want to use. So we're working on the Sawdust District and trying to get plans for that. And eventually, I suspect that they will be selling the property to somebody else who will develop that area, and that's totally okay. And we're pleased that they're staying in town, which is really the most important part to us. But recognizing that that's no longer the best location for them. So we're happy to welcome them to a new area of the city.
Definitely. Moving on under consent agenda, we've got a lot of special events, and really quickly we just want to highlight one of them, and that is the Special Olympics Wisconsin to utilize the city streets for the Run with the Cops 5K. It's coming up on October 4th, 2018, so we want to encourage everybody to get out there and take a little run with the area cops and support Special Olympics. You can find more information on the Oshkosh Police Department's Facebook page and website. Moving down into pending ordinances, Mark, we've got the adoption for a general retention and schedule pertaining to police department records, telephone video surveillance, and then also records related to city facilities. Tell us a little bit about what the background of this is.
Well, this is really catching up with technology because our video surveillance capabilities are much improved. We have surveillance cameras at City Hall and other public locations, public facilities, as well as the body cameras that the police officers have. But our laws currently require us to maintain 7 years worth of this data. That, with these days of high definition video, makes it almost cost prohibitive. So what we're reducing the video retention is for 120 days, unless there's an incident that we would save it for. But there is the equivalent of grass growing, having countless hours of video that shows absolutely nothing, and we want to be able to get rid of that in a shorter period of time, and that's what this ordinance will do.
Sure. And then under new resolutions, there's an approval for general development plan amendment for hotel, commercial, and retail uses on Oshkosh Ave. A lot of curiosity about what's going on out there. So what's this going to be?
Well, this is the general part of it, so we really don't have all the answers to it, but we are aware that the developers, the owners of the property there, would like to put in somewhat of an extended stay type of hotel, and then some, and that'll be along what's the extension of Keller towards Oshkosh Corporation, right there at Westfield Drive. So this is the one we saw earlier. Immediately south of the Keller Street extension will be the hotel, and then right along Oshkosh Avenue will be the retail. So stay tuned for more details. We really don't have all of them yet, but we wanted to just satisfy everybody's curiosity.
It's a nice little preview, I think. And then finally, Mark, under your announcements at the end of the meeting is the Oregon Street Business Owner meeting to discuss street parking options. We've heard a little bit about this, and this is a meeting with business owners.
Yeah, I don't think we realized the impacts that, even though we didn't change the profile of the street itself on South Oregon, as we were repainting and redoing the lines, that we were going to be taking out a lot of parking spaces in order to accommodate some of the turning movements, because we do have a lot of trucks that utilize this area. And some of these blocks are so short that to give them adequate turning takes out a lot of parking. Before we redo that, we saw the impact we were having. We need to circle back with these property owners, primarily businesses, and see what we can do to balance that out. And so we're going to be meeting with those owners on August 30th at 8:30 a.m. over there on 808 Oregon Street, and then we'll take it from there and bringing it back to council.
Excellent. So look forward to more background on that too and an update after the fact. So that is going to do it. We're out of time on City Manager's Report. So Mark, as always, thanks so much for joining us today.
Happy to join you.
Once more, the Common Council meeting is this Tuesday, August 28th at 6 p.m. You can watch it live on GovTV and on our website, oshkoshmedia.org, or you can listen to it on the radio at Oshkosh FM. Make sure you like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter for all of your community and government programming and updates, or check out our YouTube channel for other videos that we produce here at Oshkosh Media. And as always, don't forget, if you have a question for City Manager Mark Rohloff, send it to us on Twitter or Facebook, or go ahead and email it to us, and we'll answer it on the next episode of CMR. So as always, thanks so much for joining us on City Manager's Report, and we'll see you next time.